भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावदितमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Om, may He protect us both, teacher and student together. May He nourish us both together. May we work conjointly with great energy. May our studies be vigorous and effective. May we not mutually dispute, or may we not hate any. Om. Let there be peace in me, let there be peace in my environment, and let there be peace in the forces that act on me. Students, today we are going to discuss about the injuries of acromioclavicular joint and injuries of sternoclavicular joint in a series of lectures in the injuries around shoulder joint. So we will discuss on this particular topic, that is injuries of acromioclavicular joint, on the following points. 1. Applied anatomy. 2. Incidence. 3. Mechanism. 4. Clinical features. 5. Seg and Salvator's classification. 6. Radiography. And 7. Management, and finally the complications of this particular injury. Now, acromioclavicular joint is an diarthrodial joint and with a fibrocartilaginous disc between the two bones, very much similar to that of a meniscus in the knee joint. Now, it is a plain joint permitting gliding rotation between clavicle and the scapula. Now, its structural integrity depends on the intrinsic capsular element, the superior acromioclavicular ligament, and the extrinsic coracoclavicular ligament, now which forms a hood over the interval between the coracoid process and the acromion. Now the incidence of this particular injury is 12%, and it's common in young. Male and female ratio is 5:1. More males are involved. The common name for the acromioclavicular joint injury is also shoulder separation. I mean, in common language, the acromioclavicular injuries are called as shoulder separation injuries. And these injuries are 4 to 5 times more common as compared to sternoclavicular joint injuries. As far as the mechanism of this acromioclavicular joint injury is concerned, direct force is the most common mechanism of injury, as in RTA, assault, athletic events like tackling, etc. Then indirect force due to fall on an outstretched hand is another mechanism. And lastly, downward indirect force. For example, somebody is carrying a load on his head, for example in the coal mines, and something falls, roof falls on that particular load. So downward indirect force through the upper extremity is relatively rare. As far as the clinical features are concerned, patient complains of pain. Now you can see here this particular elevation here, or you can see here. So the patient complains of pain, swelling, and difficulty in raising the arm up. The patient supports the affected shoulder by holding the elbow with the unaffected arm. Now on examination, there is a tenderness and lateral end of the clavicle is prominently felt. Now the yellow arrow, you can just find it out. Seg and Salvator have devised a classification based on the injuries to the acromioclavicular and coracoclavicular ligament. They have classified this injury into 6 different types. Now type 1, as you can see here, type 1, it is type 1, where there is a minor sprain of acromioclavicular ligament. In type 2, there is a rupture of acromioclavicular ligament but sprain of coracoclavicular ligament. Type 3, both acromioclavicular ligament and coracoclavicular ligament, they are ruptured and clavicle is displaced little upwards. Type 4 is the same but with the upward and posterior displacement of the clavicle. Now you can see in this particular small box how the clavicle is displaced posteriorly. The type 5 and type 6 are nothing but type 3 with more severity. Now in type 4 there is a severe displacement of clavicle towards the base of the neck. Now you can see here this is the type 4 and type 5, and in the type 6 there is an inferior dislocation. Instead of going upwards and posteriorly, there is an inferior dislocation of the clavicle towards the base of the neck. So this is how Seg and Salvator has classified the injury to the acromioclavicular joint. Now investigation, radiography is the mainstay, and the following views are required. One is AP view with 15-degree cephalic tilt. I'll show you how it is done in the next slide. And second is a lateral view, and third is the stress view. Now AP view with 15-degree cephalic tilt is taken to prevent the overlap of the spine of the scapula. On routine AP view, you see that the spine of the scapula is overlapping, and hence to avoid that we do a 15-degree cephalic tilt. And lateral view means the axillary view of the shoulder is taken. Now this is the, you can see here how the cephalic tilt, the tube is placed little downwards against the level of shoulder, and then it is tilted upwards 15 degrees. Now the stress radiographs is to differentiate from the type 2 and type 3 by suspending weight of 10 to 15 pounds around the wrist. Now you don't ask person to hold the weight, you suspend the weight at the wrist joint, so that if it is a type 3 type of injury, then you will certainly find a marked gap. Coming to the management part, type 1, it requires only rest, ice bag and NSAIDs, because there is a simple sprain of the acromioclavicular ligament. Type 2, it requires a sling for 10 to 14 days. You may also put the adhesive strapping like this, and elastic strapping or a cast or the harness, and surgery is required if there is a persistent pain. In type 3 variety, conservative methods like reduction and retention with the sling and harness, same as this, can be done. However, surgery is most often required, and the surgical methods include the acromioclavicular repair, the repair of those torn ligaments, coracoclavicular repair, here they may require the repair, or sometimes excision of the distal end of the clavicle for old symptomatic cases, and finally the dynamic muscle transfer by transforming the coracoid process to the clavicle. And type 4, type 5 and type 6, they invariably require the open reduction, internal fixation and repair and reconstruction. Coming to the complications of this particular injury, the complications include 1. Associated fractures of the clavicle. 2. There could be coracoclavicular ligament ossification. 3. Osteolysis of distal clavicle. 4. Complications of surgery like infection etc. And 5. Complications after non-operative treatment like joint stiffness and periarthritis etc. The delayed complications include a step-like deformity. 2. the acromioclavicular joint arthritis, and 3, pain during weightlifting. Now with this, now we start with the injuries of sternoclavicular joint. Now we will discuss this. This is you look at this. This is what a sternoclavicular joint injury, red arrow, right? We will discuss it on following points again. 1, applied anatomy. 2, mechanism of injury. 3, incidence. 4, classification. 5, clinical features. 6, radiography, and 7, management. Coming to the applied anatomy, the sternoclavicular joint is a saddle type of joint, and it represents the only bone-to-bone connection of the upper limb to the trunk. To absorb and the shock transmitted from the arm to the shoulder, it has a fibrocartilaginous disc. You can see here the disc, fibrocartilaginous disc, or here you can see the fibrocartilaginous disc between the clavicle and the manubrium. Now it derives its structural strength from the interclavicular ligaments. You can see here, then costoclavicular ligaments, along with the anterior and posterior sternoclavicular ligament, the intra-articular disc, the ligaments, and the capsular ligament strengthen it largely. Coming to the mechanism of injury. Now you must have witnessed this sort of situation on a playground, particularly a playground of a football. Now this is the least commonly dislocated joint because of the strong ligaments. Direct forces rarely causes this injury. For example, a collision of an athlete with another person or a post. While running, he just encounters a post, and that may result to posterior dislocation of sternoclavicular joint. Indirect forces is the most common mode of injury. For example, loading the upper shoulder with someone lies on the side. Now he falls on his side, and suddenly somebody else comes and he falls on him. So that is the commonest way of getting the sternoclavicular joint injury or dislocation. Now the incidence is only about 3%, and it is more common in the young males, and cause is often the road traffic accident, which is responsible for 80% of the cases. Then sports related injuries account for remaining 20% of the cases. Now this injury can be classified into two different classifications, using two different classifications. One is anatomical classification and second is etiological classification. Now as per the anatomical classification, it could be anterior dislocation or posterior dislocation. And as far as the etiological classification is concerned, again two major groups, traumatic and atraumatic. Now the traumatic includes sprain, acute dislocation, recurrent dislocation, and reduced dislocation. And atraumatic group includes voluntary, involuntary, congenital, degenerative, and infective. Clinical features: the patient complains of pain and swelling. Medial end of the clavicle is prominent in anterior dislocation, as you can see here, as shown by this yellow arrow. And affected shoulder is short. The lateral compression test is positive. It will, when you compress laterally on the both shoulder, it will cause pain at the sternoclavicular joint. Now radiography, spatial radiography technique has to be used, because a plain X-ray chest AP view, it is very difficult to interpret, and hence a spatial cephalocaudal view. Now this particular view is called as a Hobbs view. There is another method which is known as serendipity view, which can also be used to find out the sternoclavicular joint. You can see here the sternoclavicular joint on this side is displaced. This particular view is known as serendipity view. This is taken, the X-ray plate is put little higher and the tube is inclined upwards, and in this particular fashion, and now this can show you the how the right sternoclavicular joint is dislocated. Now tomogram are also useful. CT scan MRI helps to study the position of the clavicle with respect to the sternum and soft tissue respectively. These are the CT scans. Now you can see how it is useful. As far as the management is concerned, the mildest sprain they are treated by simple ice, sling, painkillers, etc. Whenever there is subluxation, the treatment methods are again ice for first 12 hours, later 24 to 48 hours warmth, hot packs, and clavicle strap can also help, and figure of 8 and excision of the medial end of the pain if the pain persists. Now these are the techniques. But as far as the management of dislocation is concerned, the treatment of choice is close reduction by firm digital pressure followed by figure of 8, clavicular strap, sling, etc. Now as you can see, the patient is put on a supine position, a sandbag is kept behind the scapula, and the arm is put on a traction, and then surgeon manipulates and digitally reduces the anterior dislocation of sternoclavicular joint. And if it fails, then open reduction and internal fixation using K-wire can also be done. But when it is a question of posterior dislocation, it is very rare but very dangerous because it may compress on the great fascias. So one may pull the clavicle using the towel clips. Now of course it has to be done under anesthesia, and you can use the towel clip to pull it anteriorly. However, you must always make it sure that a cardiothoracic surgeon is available in the event it slips and damages the great major vessels, and you may require a thoracotomy. So this is what about the sternoclavicular and the acromioclavicular ligament injuries. But before we end today, I want to talk to you about one more important topic, and that is happy key to lose weight. Dear students, one of the commonest problem we are facing in our routine clinical orthopedic practice is obesity. And particularly in Andhra, where people are rice eater, the non-vegetarian, and drinking cold drink every now and then that is one of the biggest problem. Now for controlling obesity, eat less and exercise more formula has been proved to be the failed formula. Of late, I have been working on the latest, most scientific, evidence-based concept of the weight loss happy key. Now you may find few videos on this topic as well on my YouTube channel. The obesity among the medical students is at its peak nowadays. I find so many obese girls and boys in my college. And due to obesity, not only they are bullied, but most of them lose their self-confidence, resulting in deteriorating performance in academics. That is my concern. And for all of them, this online video course will be most valuable. If interested, you may visit my Facebook page. I have given you the link here, https://www.facebook.com/thehappykey, and my website www.drsudhir.com. You can also contact me on my WhatsApp number 7997168316. I host regular webinars for the same twice a week, Wednesday and Friday at 8 p.m. And those who cannot attend on Wednesday and Friday, for them I keep a special seminar on Sunday at 12 noon. You may join using the following link, https://zoom.us/j/8279404308. So thank you for subscribing my channel.